everybody, Steve Schnee, and you are watching the CD Junkie. Welcome to another episode of I Bet You've Never Heard These 80s Albums Before. This is a show where I grab 5 obscure or semi-obscure albums that I think need to be heard by a larger audience. Maybe you've heard some of this, maybe you've heard all of it, maybe it's all new to you. Whatever, I'm just trying to turn people on to new music, even if it's 40 years old. It's really exciting to discover new music. I felt that way 40 years ago when these things were brand new and I was buying them off the shelves, and I still feel excited about this music today. I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. First album I'm going to talk about is by a Liverpudlian band by the name of the Icicle Works. This is a band led by singer-songwriter Ian McNabb, who is still out there, top of his game, releasing lots of great music. He has a brand new album called 65 coming out in 2026. But the album I'm going to talk about is an album from 1985. It is the second album by the Icicle Works. It is called The Small Price of a Bicycle. And whereas the first self-titled album was really rooted kind of in post-punk, the second album, which I'm going to play you a little bit of in just a moment, called The Small Price of a Bicycle, is more jangly, more psychedelic. I love when a band changes. I really do. Like, every album is a little bit different. Icicle Works were no exception, and that's why I continued to follow them. You never knew what you were going to get, but you knew it was going to be top-notch because Ian McNabb, great singer-songwriter. So this album was never released in the U.S., which is a shame. I think it could have caught on here on some of the alternative and college radio stations back in the day. But as I said, this is the Icicle Works, The Small Price of a Bicycle from 1985. I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. This next band is from the Netherlands, a band by the name of Gruppo Sportivo. Now, they did have an American album that came out in, 78, 79, something like that. It was a compilation of tracks from their first 2 albums, but then they split up. They reformed under a different band name. They split up, and then they got back together. And once they got back together, they released an album called Pop Goes the Brain in 1981. Exceptional. Just great, goofy, fun pop. It's upbeat, it's uplifting. It's kind of poking fun at kind of the new wave that was going on, even though Gruppo Sportivo were new wave. But maybe it's more paying an homage to what was going on around them. The album Pop Goes the Brain is great fun. This is Gruppo Sportivo from 1981. Hey, that rhymed.
And there's no doubt. Don't call me, send me a pillow, please.
I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. Now we're going to go electronic. This is a synth trio from the East Coast, New York, I believe, by the name of Our Daughter's Wedding. They had an independent hit called Lawn Chairs, and then they got signed to EMI. EMI put out an EP, I think, called Digital Cowboy, and then they put out an album called Moving Windows, and then they unfortunately split after that. They're very mysterious. They're very kind of weird, odd. It is pretty much straight electro pop. It's kind of odd, weird, and wonderful. Sounds like it's coming from a different place than Depeche Mode, Human League, and all those kind of places. And it probably is, because it's New York. You know, it's not dark New York, like, you know, sleazy, but maybe it's a fun kind of sleazy. But this is Our Daughter's Wedding and the album Moving Windows from 1982. I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. I'll tell you, one of the biggest bands from the early 80s from the UK was ABC. You know, they had hits like Look of Love and Poison Arrow and All of My Heart. This was a band that played, you know, this lush, produced, fun, melodramatic pop. And, you know, their first album, Lexicon of Love, was just absolutely fantastic. But like many other bands that I love so much, is they did a drastic, radical change with their second album, which is the one we're going to talk about right now. And the album's called Beauty Stab. Came out in 1983. And they went from being, you know, orchestral and melodramatic to being more insular, I guess, and more rock. Instead of sounding like David Bowie with strings like on the first album, they were sounding more like like a Roxy Music. It's a very studio album. I can't see how this could have been written for the stage, you know, for live performances. The arrangements are great, but it's more of a rock edge. By this time, David Palmer, the drummer, had left, so it was just a trio of Martin Fry, Mark White, and Stephen Singleton. And what they did with this record is they just created a whole new musical world. And I found that fascinating. As I said before, I always find it fascinating when a band changes. It's commercial, you know, but they're doing what they want to do. And the album after this was completely different. And the album after that was different, etc., etc., etc. ABC, really one of the most overlooked bands. But this album is called Beauty Stab, the group ABC, and it came out in 1983.
That was then, but this is now. That was then, but this is now.
If I ever thought you'd be lonely, if I ever thought you'd be there, if I ever thought the alimony, my painted pony, you'd be there. Lips that seem so kissable, unmissable, unzippable. Unzip. You're just the captain of a sinking ship.
Unzip, unzip, unzip.
Love's a dangerous language. Survey the damage. they settle for less? Why does this message always have to be SOS? SOS.
I bet you've never heard this 80s album before. We started off this episode in Liverpool. We're going to end it in Liverpool. I'm going to talk about a band by the name of Yachts. If you've been to my channel at all, this is a band that I talk about whenever I can. An incredible quartet. There was Henry Priestman on vocals and keyboards, Martin Watson on vocals and guitar, Martin Dempsey on bass, and Bobby Bellis on drums and vocals. And I'll tell you, that first album originally came out in the UK just under the name Yachts, but they took some songs off and added some songs and mixed them around, and it was called SOS here in the US. And I remember seeing the album cover and going, oh, this is cool. These guys look cool. And I turn the album over. I go, man, this looks even cooler. So I asked for it either for my birthday or Christmas that year, 1979. And I ended up getting it, and it blew my mind. I think it was Christmas of 79, because I think my birthday, 79, was when I got the first Records album. So this Yachts album, oh my, still to this day, it gives me chills, because it's just so, they're unlike any other band at the time. They were classified as new wave. They were classified as power pop. Some people might have even called them mod, but they were their own thing. Their vocal harmonies, they weren't Beatles, that kind of harmony. It was more like operatic type things, but very, very unique. But the songs were great. They totally had fun. You can listen to this record and just go, man, I bet these guys are great live. And I've heard they were great live, but I never did see them. They did release a second album called Yachts Without Radar, and then they split up. But before they split up, they had recorded enough demos to put together a third album. But that music languished in the vaults into the year 2024, when it was officially released as an album called Missing in Action, 1980, 1981. Thing about this is it's on vinyl, and the only way you can get the CD is if you buy the vinyl. So you can't buy the CD separately, but you can buy the vinyl and get the CD. That's what I did. I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, this is Yachts, SOS from 1979. I know it's not the 80s, but it's close enough.
She's gone, I don't believe you. She's gone, she should have deceived you. She's gone, I won't believe that. She's run away with the yachting type. With the yachting type. I would climb any mountain for you. Ford every stream, that's a damn thing to do. Yes, I'm cynical, 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 cynical through and through. So I'm feeding in the traits I knew. Will the punch out find another you? Please apply post haste to box 202. I've tried semaphore love. I've tried to salvage our love. I've tried semaphore love. I've tried to salvage our love. I've tried semaphore love.
Well, that's it. I hope this inspires you to check out these bands. I think it's pretty incredible that you spent time watching me on this video, and I really appreciate it. But before you leave, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications, and until the next time, remember me, I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.